Here's how little I'm on Twitter. I went on, it's not on my phone, and it does actually fucking calm you when you're not always checking shit. I put it on to announce that there wasn't going to be a chip because we had released 2 that one week, and then I was away. I didn't hear about fucking Louis had trouble until I was at the Comedy Cellar on fucking New Year's Eve, and a couple of the comedians are talking about it, and they have Louis, and I'm like, oh, that thing with Gervais and Chris Rock, and they're like, no, this new one.
Maybe they were just singing.
Oh, the song.
Louis.
No, they were talking about fucking Louis in trouble for a bit he did about fucking Parkland.
Wait, are you talking about alt-right Louis C.K.? Are you talking about alt-right comedian Louis C.K.?
Like, all right. So
From
now people don't like Louis, and he's a terrible person. When do people become surprised that Louis does fucking offensive material? He's been doing offensive material for 30 years.
I don't remember him ever cursing.
The saltier language he kind of lost me on.
That I didn't like.
It's fucking, look, everyone knows Parkland was terrible. Everyone knows. It's sad. Louis would tell you it's sad. There's a lot of sad things in life that you talk about as a comedian. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of tragic, fucking horrible things that on paper are not funny that you make fun of as a comedian. When did people become surprised that at times comedians are dicks on stage?
Well, so especially someone as famous as him. Like, he's had like, what, 5, 6 specials, and he's incredibly offensive.
Not that nice.
People have to realize something about stand-up.
He used to curse about his kids, his own kids.
And that's what people liked about him. You say his kids were shitty, and I mean, that's what people loved about him.
Yeah, he said his own, so it's okay to say your own kids are shitty, but not the Parkland kids.
But when look, man, when you're doing stand-up, I hate to break it to people, but every time you do stand-up comedy, you're not making a proclamation from a fucking balcony of fact. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you're exaggerating. Sometimes you're just being a dick because the joke is in being an asshole and the nonsense opinion you're giving. Sometimes you're fucking stressing a point to stress the other point. You're exaggerating one way to go the other way. Other times you're just exploring an opinion, and it's a shitty opinion or it's a mean opinion. That's what being a stand-up is. You're not always going to give the exact right take to make people comfortable.
Well, to be fair to the critics, did Louis announce before he made the joke that just so everybody knows this is a joke, not a statement of fact? Did he say that?
It's fucking crazy that you have to do that as a comic now. And again, and I've always said it, and people, how come you didn't say anything? First of all, I didn't know it was happening. And second of all, I've been saying the same thing for 18 fucking years. Mm-hmm. Enough with the language policing in comedy. People don't have to like it, but to act shocked that somebody makes shitty jokes about something or mean jokes about something, I mean, you can't start narrowing down what you can talk about and what you can't talk about, because then 90% of the subjects that comics talk about, somebody has some attachment to that isn't pleasant.
I don't care if people like or don't like Louis C.K. That's their own prerogative, whatever.
You don't have to like him.
But what really bugs me is like you just said, the idea that he hasn't been doing offensive material forever. That's what it's how he's always done this. And I can't believe that other comics and other people in comedy and just performers in general, other artists, don't understand that Louis, he goes out there, he does this set, right? And he just does it at a comedy club. Somebody bootlegs it. It's recorded.
Exactly. He didn't release it.
No.
It's pulled and put online, I guess.
It was bootlegged. The entire set. It's like 49 minutes is the video. The entire set was...
Is it video or audio? I just heard
audio. It's audio, but it's on YouTube.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So they made a video out of the audio, but the entire set is on YouTube, and somebody pulls this out of the set. Now, nobody's sitting there, or I guess I'm sure some people are, right? People are criticizing it as if he's not just working on material and seeing what sticks. You know what I mean? Like, this isn't his declaration of, here is my work. Here is what I'm presenting to you. You got to go, I would imagine, Jim, from performance to performance. And by the time he gets to his special, by the time he gets to having an hour of comedy that he wants to present to people, he may not even be doing these jokes anymore, right?
Or you've worked it out where you're actually saying what it is you want to say, right, the way you want to say it. Sometimes you're trying to say something or you're making a point and you fuck around with it. And you throw it out 20 different ways over the course of the year or whatever it is. And then it starts to work. And then it feels like, okay, this kind of leads into that. And now I'm piecing it together. Now I'm saying it the way. And of course, I don't blame the people from Parkland or the girl's father. Of course, you don't blame them for having a reaction. Like, all right, it's your family or you were involved with it. But for the public at large to act like incensed that somebody is talking about an unpleasant or a tragic subject, I mean, that's part of what stand-up is. And people have the right to not like it, but to act shocked by the fact that a comic talked about something that they don't like is crazy, because there's so many things comics talk about that have an attachment to an unpleasant thing for somebody. Yeah, Parkland is very obvious, but are we not allowed to talk about 9/11, which is also terrible? I mean, go down the list. Every comic that's ever joked about drunk driving, every comic that's ever joked, offhandedly about a plane crash.
Are you talking about alt-right comics?
I mean,
he's now literally, Louis is being described as alt-right because, should we play the 2 minutes that everybody's talking about?
Yes.
So people understand the context of what we're saying. So
he's basically criticizing youth. Coming from a guy who's 51, he's criticizing about everyone's being taken so seriously as young people. That's the hunk that he's putting out there. And then, of course, then they got mad at him because he made fun of Asian dicks or black dicks or whatever else he did. I only heard this 2-minute clip. I didn't hear the rest of it.
It's great to hear so many people upset over jokes that were killing.
Yeah, if you listen to the audience, everybody's laughing.
Everyone's enjoying it.
This idea that
it's lazy though. He was punching down, and
yeah. Well, you know what? An older man, a middle-aged man, should never sit there and make fun of kids and what they do. It's never been done before. No. It's not like every generation this happens. It doesn't happen. And it shouldn't happen.
And again, forgive the same point over and over. I don't know how else to make it. But why is stand-up the only fucking form where people think you have to like the content or agree with the angle that the comic is coming from? Like, again, why are actors never dragged through the mud for choosing a role where they play a racist or a rapist or a murderer? Like, why is that all of a sudden some artistic endeavor? But as a stand-up, you're a terrible person.
Yeah, isn't there...
You've read the script. First of all, if you're an actor, you've read the script.
Right.
Your agent has read the script, and you've both said, yes, I will do that. You've gone, cut, redo it. Okay, so not only are you saying it on film, you're saying it on film 30 times, and while they take somebody else's close-up, you're saying it off camera. An author, why is it okay to kill kids in books, to talk about rapes and murders in books? And people understand that this is a performance or your I hate to say the word art. I'm trying to talk around it because I don't want to sound like it's snooty. But people go, this is your art. This is what you do. Or you're a painter, whatever it is. If you're painting the Holocaust, wow, this is your art. You're expressing something. But for some reason, because you're a comic and because there's laughs involved and you're trying to take your art and make people laugh about something horrible, you're a fucking terrible person and it's exactly how you feel and you don't care about victims.
Yeah, this doesn't mean when Louis C.K. makes a joke like this doesn't mean that Louis is walking around in his personal life going, fuck those Parkland kids, right? I mean, does it?
First of all, if you were walking around in your personal life, you probably wouldn't say that on stage.
Right.
You probably wouldn't say it on stage.
Right.
And it's because people don't like Louis now, and that's fine. You don't have to like him. It's fine. Don't like the guy. You want to hate someone, fucking hate them. But when it comes to stand-up, to all of a sudden act shocked and incensed that a comic who's been dirty for 30 years is being dirty or being offensive or coming from an angle that a lot of people find objectionable. That's part of what stand-up is. There's a lot of people... By the way, I hate to break it to people who think that offensive speech should be punished.
It should be.
I'll shut up soon. Is fucking... Say how you feel about gay marriage or abortion. Whatever that feeling is, you've offended half the country.
That's right.
You're offending half, what? Because you didn't say it in a dirty way? You didn't say it in a mean way? If you're for gay marriage or you're against gay marriage, or if you're for gay marriage, you're offending more people. Because I think more people are against gay marriage.
But it depends on what bubble you hang out in.
Of course it does.
Right?
But just by stating your opinion, if you're giving the real opinion or you're making a joke that is pro or anti one way or the other, you are offending and alienating a huge group of people.
But here's what happens. They love bringing you in and holding you up and then just tearing you down and kicking the ever-loving shit out of you. And there is something about Louis C.K. who got more success than most comics get by a mile, right? We watch this guy get all this success, and for some reason, people love knowing that those guys that get success, eventually we get to tear them down. They don't get to keep it.
And it's also, it's like the bigger you are, the more light is on you, I guess, when you're that famous.
Yeah. They
just try to find stuff. They find something you don't like, and then everybody jumps on it and goes, I can't believe that this person said this terrible thing.
They're also acting like Louis jerking off in front of women in a way that he thought was consensual and maybe he misread the situation is equivalent to Bill Cosby. Like, that's the way he's being treated by a lot of people. And it's like, we have to understand that there's major levels to this. And Bill Cosby and Harvey Weinstein and Kevin Spacey and rapity rape is so far beyond anything Louis
of course it is.
Has ever been accused of doing.
And this, I guess a lot of this might tie into the fact that a lot of people don't like him anymore. They don't like the fact that he's doing stand-up anymore. But to watch, to take a comics audio, and again, I don't think comics we're these sacred people that, you know, that should be able to go out and fucking and live above the law. But it's like, you know what the job is. You know what being a stand-up is. And in hindsight, people who say things that are offensive, and the whole idea of punching up and punching down, when you're on stage and you're punching and you're trying to be funny, you're not standing there going, is this a punching up joke or is this, because then there's too many subsets of fucking rules. Like, okay, so can black comics talk about white people? How about guys like Chappelle, Kevin Hart, Leslie Jones, people who make all this money? So can they talk about white people that make more money or less money? Or can they talk about other minorities? Can Koreans talk about blacks, or can blacks talk about, who the fuck wants to live with all those rules? It's exhausting, and the punishments are arbitrary. All right, I'll shut up, but it drives me fucking crazy. And for anyone who asks me, why didn't you say anything? I didn't hear about it. I'm not on fucking Twitter getting my constant feed, and I've been saying the same thing since 2001.
Plus, you have a fucking radio show. You're allowed to wait until you're on the radio to say something. That's what you should be doing anyway.
That's the culture anyway. If you say something, people get mad at you. If you don't say something, people get mad at you.
Of course.
And they always assume there's a shitty motive.
Right. And it's like, no, I'm living my life. I'll go on the radio and talk about it. You know?
And people will take things you say. There was a time, and again, I don't have a comparable experience to something on this level. I was on stage one night in the Cellar, and this is just how it works. And there was a woman and a guy, and the woman was being a cunt. She was being horrible and talkative and entitled. And I was joking with her. I wasn't being awful. I wasn't being shitty. I was fucking with her. I was being nice, and I knew I wanted to fucking level her because the crowd hated her. But I was playful with her. And like, you know, kind of telling her to shut up, but not being horrible. And then finally, she wouldn't stop. So I got aggressive, and her dumb boyfriend had to jump in, you know. And then they wound up leaving, and I was aggressive with them as they left because they were shitty. So some woman from the New York Post is there, and she wrote about it. And she took the side of those two people. Now, she did get my quote and quote me accurately, but the fact that she could watch what happened, knowing what I was thinking when I was saying that stuff, and interpret it that way, I knew there was just no way for me to, because she was in the room and she read it differently than the entire audience read it.
There's a thing about stand-up where, because it looks like, especially, you know, the style of stand-up that guys like you and Louis do, like it's a casual style, and you make it
me and Louis, and like what, me in front of 80 people and him in the garden?
Okay.
I wouldn't say the same style as we do. It's a largely different.
You want to bring that up? You know, I
people listening.
Necessarily talking about audience size. Yeah, probably wouldn't be the greatest comparison in the world. But because it comes across as casual, right? It comes across as like, I'm just kind of up here shooting the shit and riffing and being funny. And I think because people believe that anybody could do it. It's a guy and a microphone, and he's coming up and just kind of talking about how he feels about stuff. With movies, you're protected by writers and directors and all this stuff, and painters. There's every other art form. There's stuff around it. There's almost like a barrier of entry where you have to either learn how to paint or learn how to use a camera or learn how to sing or play guitar or whatever. And people think that being funny is not that, when it is.
And they also they also put that barrier up, because the truth of it is, he said something people don't like, and when people don't like what you say, they want you punished for it. That's the ugly truth of it, but nobody wants to say that. Nobody wants to admit, yeah, I want you punished because I didn't like it. Because that's just like an ugly, cunty quality to have, and none of us want to think that we're that self-centered that we want someone punished for saying shit we don't like. So they say things like, well, technically, you know, because then people say, well, yeah, but you don't write the movie. All right, so what if you did write the movie? How about Billy Bob and Sling? I believe he wrote it. So if you wrote the film and directed, do your rules change for someone who's not the right? I mean, that's just a nonsense argument.
Tarantino in Pulp Fiction.
Right.
He wrote it and directed it, and it was his line. And
he's caught shit. I mean, you know, Tarantino has gotten shit. He's one of the few guys who's actually, you know, I think Spike Lee gave him shit for using racial language, even though Spike Lee has made a living using racial stereotypes to highlight how stupid they are, to highlight the way the world is. But he's made a living doing that, and then criticized somebody else for doing it because Tarantino used the language in a different way.
Did you want to jump in, Troy?
Yeah. Is this language policing in comedy happening in other languages, or is this only an English thing?
I don't know.
Well, I mean, I know. I mean, it depends. And this is like a reach. Like in Saudi Arabia, they just banned Hasan Minhaj. You know Hasan Minhaj's Netflix show? There's an episode about Saudi Arabia, and Netflix has taken it off of Saudi Arabian Netflix.
Did they?
Because apparently it's against some law that they have about criticizing the government. So there's countries like that, but I think that's an extreme. Like, I mean, you're talking about maybe like
Italian. Italian comics have to go through this same shit.
I don't know. I have no idea.
Italian doesn't have the reach that English does.
Right.
I think also. And for some reason, stand-up is mostly... I'm sure there's other language-speaking comics that get shit. There's a Brazilian comedian that got a lot of shit. I forget his name. He's a huge Brazilian comic. He's like 10 or 12 million Twitter followers.
Not sure.
He got a lot of shit for stuff he said, but it doesn't usually reach here unless it's English.
Well, we'll have to ask Gad Elmaleh next time he's in here. Let's listen to Louis' comedy. Now
Should we be playing this on the air?
Why not?
Because it's his stand-up that was uploaded. I guess so many people have seen it.
So that's why only the 2 minutes that everybody's seen. Like,
yeah,
we're not going to play the whole set.
They took the guy's fucking set and put it on, and it's like, I have a real problem with that.
I mean, if you don't want to do it, we don't have to. I just feel like because it's become newsworthy and it's everywhere, it's got... I mean, it's totally up to you. I don't care. You can find it yourselves.
I'd rather let people find it. And it's not because I think it's so terrible, but it's almost like they uploaded his shit.
Right.
They took his shit and taped it and put it on.
Yeah. He was making jokes about the thing that really got him in trouble was saying that the Parkland kids are not more interesting just because somebody at their school got shot.
Right.
And he's saying that kids are not interesting and that when he was a kid, he was a fuck up, and now they're
wearing suits
and telling people what to do, and it's annoying.
And people said, oh, he was like shaming gender dysphoria because he talked about, well, how come people want to be they or them? And the line he had about they or them, I don't want to say it, I'm not blows, but it made me laugh out loud. The line about that, the location joke he did made me laugh out loud.
And it's not even about whether you agree with it or not, right? I mean, you're not supposed to watch or listen to comedy and going like, do I agree with that point of view? It's just funny or not. You can laugh at something and go, I don't support that at all. I can sit there and go, I think the Parkland kids are just the most interesting things in the world. But it's funny what he said.
You don't have to.
That's it.
It's not laughing at something or making fun of something is not a statement of 100% how you feel about it. You know, a lot of times you're laughing at something just because it's a relief to laugh about something tragic. It doesn't mean that you don't respect it. We've talked about this a million times. Yes. But no matter how many times you say it, it never changes anything. But all you people who are deluded, who think this is going to swing back the other way, fucking forget it. Me and Colin used to have this discussion in 2003. It's not swinging back the other way. It will never swing back the other way.
I think that you're probably right. And disappointed is such a douchey word, but I was bummed out at Judd Apatow's tweet. Did you see what Judd Apatow said?
I did, yeah.
And it was like, because I love just about everything Judd Apatow has done. Like, I love all his movies. Freaks and Geeks is one of my favorite TV shows of all time. I love Crashing. I love everything he's done, pretty much. But, you know, he came out and blasted Louis as if Judd doesn't know, like, for being a hack. And
to call Louis' bit hacky, it's not a hacky bit. You don't have to like the bit. You can say, I thought the bit sucked. But the word hacky is at times misused. And Louis' angle on that, whether you like it or not, whether you think it's offensive or not, whether you think it's funny or not, was not a hacky angle.
You also know it's not a finished bit. Like, to me, to call a bit hacky when you're still in the process of working on it, that's like saying a painting sucks before it's finished, before it's been colored in. It doesn't really hold water to me. I don't think it's fair.
Wow, I didn't realize. I saw one thing he said. I didn't realize he went on a tweet rant about.
Yeah, he talked about it a lot, and it was. I was surprised because he's such a kind of loyalist to comedy as an art form. I always felt like.
Yeah.
But I guess to each their own. But I think Judd.
There are a lot of comedians that.
I think Judd is wrong on this.
Yeah,
one.
I do too.
It was disappointing.
Well, let me ask you.
You can find Louis. You can find it disappointing. You don't have to like what he said as a comic.
No, I'm saying that. Oh, I'm sorry. I was disappointed at how comedians reacted to this.
Yeah,
because the Parkland. We all know how tragic and awful it was. But then the next time you do something. Maybe it won't be this on the nose, or maybe it won't be this fresh a group that you're talking about, or this visible a group. But it's like Wayne Brady, I think, got mad at the N-word use in that thing. He commented on it. And Wayne's a clean comic, but didn't he do a bit with Chappelle on the Chappelle Show where he was like, because he's such a clean-cut guy, where he was playing like a gangbanger?
He did.
Okay. So you want to break it down one level further. So gang violence or the amount of innocent kids shot accidentally is okay, but don't use it. You know what I mean? Like, if you get into that world, you're always going to lose. Because there's always going to be something you touch on, whether it's obviously or whether it's subtly, that has hurt somebody or that's brutal.
Right.
Again, people can laugh or not laugh. And if you're doing an interview and you say, this is how I really feel, well, that's different. But if you're on stage and people are laughing in the audience, that's like saying that nobody in that audience cared about Parkland victims, or maybe they just understand kind of the shitty angle that Louis was taking and they thought it was funny that this guy's taking a shitty angle.
Or they're all alt-right. Do people even know what alt-right is? Like, is alt-right a thing anymore? Does alt-right actually mean anything? Or
yeah, there's comedians that are alt-right.
You talking about Louis?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to your point, I'm not a Trump supporter at all, but I think Louis is really funny. So
you're alt-right.
Yeah, you don't have... No. Wow, shit. Am I now?
That actually does make you alt-right. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. And bisexual. but mainly alt-right. Yeah, you know, I just... Most of the comics that you saw, Travis, criticizing Louis, were they from...
I only saw one Judd tweet, and that was the main one.
I saw a few Judd tweets. Oh. Were they like LA comics? Or were they from all...
Of course they were.
Yeah. Because I feel like that has a lot to do with it, too. And they may not even realize the bubble that they're in. That show business, Los Angeles, Hollywood bubble. And I'm not saying every comic in LA is like that, because a lot... I mean, Bill Burr lives in LA. He's the exact same Bill Burr he's always been. Yeah. And I don't know where he stands on this, but... I do feel like there's a lot of people that are in that Los Angeles show business bubble, that they have so many people around them that talk about this stuff in terms of morality, in terms of right and wrong. So regardless of if it's a comedian, regardless of if it's art, regardless of why things are done or how they're done or what in context, we know this is wrong. Our bubble has established this is wrong. And so they kind of feel like they're in the right, you know, and they're not really looking at it from a full-bodied perspective. Does that make sense?
It does. It does.
I think that happens to people.
By the way, the outrage over what people are saying and the freaking out, it just changes from year to year. But like, again, 50 years ago, 60 years ago, it was Lenny Bruce talking about the Catholic Church. And I know he's punching up and Louis punch, but it doesn't matter which way you're punching or what your generation is. There are always things that comedians are talking about that people are angry about and upset about, and they never hold it to the other forms of performance. They just don't.
And by the way, if the collective, the outrage collective, had not made the decision that Louis C.K. is now on the enemies list, he could have done this exact same set and people would have been like, oh, Louis, whoa. And that would have been it.
Well, again, and then I understand that the father of the victim, of course, they're going to say something.
I mean,
because it's about them.
Yeah.
But yeah, the people who jumped in probably wouldn't have jumped in. But when you start getting into when you start getting into that and saying, well, yeah, no, I know this is sad, but then you better be ready to have every bit you've ever done examined carefully and make sure, because no one is going to pass scrutiny. No matter how subtly you've hurt somebody or talked about something hurtful, we all have.
Especially when you start going into the past. Like over the break, that HBO clip that you were talking about with Ricky Gervais and Chris Rock, Louis C.K. and the N-word was all over social media again. And that was from a few years ago. That was a show on HBO. Everybody saw it. It wasn't hidden, but people were bringing it up. And like you said, you know, I think Wayne Brady said something about it. Man, when you start going into the past and trying to get people on crimes of morality for things that they've said in the past, it's such a slippery slope. Because if you think that everybody's got something now, imagine if we open it up to their entire lives. Everybody's got shit throughout their lives that you don't want somebody digging. And if, honestly, everybody's got stuff that they've said years ago that they haven't said in years because they're like, you know what? That's not really me anymore. People change. People evolve.
Who wants to live in that in that world as a stand-up? Like, comics are the ones who are supposed to say things that bother people.
Right.
Like, that's kind of what you do. That's what makes people want to be comedians. You're saying things in class or in your personal life that are making other people laugh. Very rarely are those things dryly ironic.
Right.
Very, very few comics that I know became comics because when they were fucking, sitting around with all their friends drinking, they would just make some dry observation.
Right.
It's not usually what makes you funny.
No, it's not.
And there's plenty of clean, like when you, again, I'm bored saying the same thing over and over and over again. I just don't believe in any kind of fucking policing. not for any art form. And again, they only do it with stand-up. They're not doing it with films. And when you do it with film, you're seen as somebody who's trying to censor. When you're going after people for roles they've chosen, you'd be seen as somebody who's going. But like, it's so easy for actors and actresses to come out, and a few of them came out and blasted Louis. And again, you don't have to. I think Ellen Barkin said she hopes he gets raped, unless that was a fake tweet.
No, I hope it was a fake tweet. That seems like a lot. Yeah, and you know, I think that it's just gone crazy. And there's a big difference between people who go, because you should let the marketplace dictate. When you talk about policing, that's where it becomes an issue. And there are some people going, well, this is the marketplace dictating. There's no policing going on. It's not censorship. It's just the marketplace. But it's not the marketplace. When you go out, when you bootleg a clip and you push that clip out and you start tweeting out, right? And your intention is to notify as many people as humanly possible. Listen to this offensive clip. Do not support this artist. That's not the marketplace dictating. That's not you being like, well, it's not for me. I'm not going to watch it. That's you trying to manipulate. That's you trying to get this person silenced, right?
Yeah. Yeah, there's
that's different.
If you don't, it's the oldest thing in the book. If you don't like something, and again, people have the right to say they don't like shit. No one is saying that they shouldn't be allowed to say you don't like shit.
But to you know the difference. We know the difference. A human being knows the difference between saying they don't like something and trying to launch a campaign to stop somebody from performing.
I saw the next morning. I went out and it was on the headline of the Daily News and the Post, and I'm like, in the world we live in, comedian makes offensive jokes is headline fucking news.